Let's now go to our Rima today. And we are in Matthew 23 and 37. We're in the sections Jesus grieves over Jerusalem. He says, "O Jerusalem, Jerusalem," twice he says, "the city that kills the prophets and stones God's messengers." Wow. How often I have wanted to gather your children together as a hen protects her chicks beneath her wings, but you wouldn't let me. And now look, your house is abandoned and desolate. For I tell you this, you will never see me again until you say, "Blessings on the one who comes in the name of the Lord." Wow, 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 wow. What a powerful statement by Christ. As Jesus grieves over Jerusalem, he says, "O Jerusalem, Jerusalem," 2 times, naming the city, quote, of peace, that kills, the city that kills the prophets and stones God's messengers. Wow. You can see the kingdoms of even the chosen people of God, when they reject Christ, when they cannot see beyond their own Pharisaic nature, even God will curse him. For it says, "Your house is abandoned and desolate. I tell you, you will never see me again until you say, 'Blessings on the one who comes in the name of the Lord.'" Wow. Jesus called the Pharisees snakes, whitewashed tombs, and hypocrites. Why would he use such unkind names? Matthew 23, 1 through 36. Jesus answers life's essential questions. What must have seemed to the Pharisees like a very long diatribe translate to a pinpoint listing of common rights that Jesus exposed as wrongs. They include saying one thing but doing the opposite, burdening others with unreasonable expectations, doing good things only to be noticed by others, seeking and even fighting for honors, thinking that greatness is defined by position and authority instead of humble service, using religiosity as a cover for victimizing the poor and needy, venerating earthly riches and what they can buy over the treasure of a relationship with God, giving the appearance of generosity and kindness while simultaneously neglecting justice, mercy, and faith, pointing out others' minor flaws while ignoring your own major flaws, paying inordinate attention to your outer beauty while neglecting your inner beauty, proclaiming your innocence in the face of your obvious guilt. That's the section in the Jesus Bible. This is where Jesus goes into a huge diatribe in Matthew 23. Very big, long chapter. Look at that. Even in verse 13, "You hypocrites, for you shut the door of the kingdom of God in people's faces. You won't go in yourselves, and you don't let others enter either." That whole section. Then he calls them whitewashed tombs, death coffins, basically. Call them snakes, vipers, hypocrites, and liars. And then he looks on Jerusalem in that context. Look at this. "As a result, you will be held responsible for the murder of all the godly people of all time. From the murder of righteous Abel to the murder of Zechariah, son of Berechiah, whom you killed in the temple between the sanctuary and the altar. I tell you the truth, this judgment will fall on this very generation. O Jerusalem, Jerusalem, the city that kills the prophets and stones God's messengers." Jerusalem was the center of power, for the chosen nation. It was a center of religiosity, the center of Old Testament moral posturing and virtue signaling. It was a center of the establishment, religion. It was a center of those who claimed to follow the law of Moses and the law of God, but would kill and try to destroy Christ because he represented such a threat to the establishment, such a decentralized force, such a radical anathema power. That would seek to overthrow their established, colluding, working with the Roman Empire as the controllers of the Jewish people. Just like the imams in the West that are run by Saudi Arabia and collude with the federal government to control the population of Muslims here in both America and the Western Europe. Okay. You have these kind of religious fanatics who are outwardly religious but inwardly colluding and criminals, committing crimes. Outwardly praying in their soul, praying, you know, swaying in their seats, rocking, as if they're diligently praying, yes, yes. But inwardly, laughing at the people. Inwardly, laughing at those who they're exploiting. Inwardly, laughing at Jesus. Because Jesus stood with God, was one with God. He who sees him sees the Father. And through a relationship with Christ, people could see God's power. They could build something that was beyond religion and establishment and hierarchy. They could build on a relationship with God. They could grow in closeness with Him, friendship. They could grow in intimacy. And through that relationship, they'd be transformed. But we're not transformed by religion and theology. I mean, to the core, right? Our behaviors may change. Even those who follow Pharisees, may become more outwardly religious. You may change your clothes, you may shave your head or whatever, but you won't transform in the way you transform when you have a living relationship with Jesus Christ and God. Because with Jesus Christ and having a real relationship with Him, not where just you know Him in mind, in just your mind, or you know Him in just a book or in stories, but you know Him as a person. You talk to Him. You relate with Him. You relate with the Almighty God, who is in the person of Jesus and returning Jesus. You relate with Him. You build a relationship, a foundation. You understand what He likes, what He doesn't like. You understand how to hang out with God. Look at that. Hanging out with God. I'm not talking like chilling out with your friends. I'm like spending time with Him. Bringing Him joy. Even yesterday in the Korean service, how long, about 2 hours? Was that 2 hours? 4 hours, about 4 hours.
It was pretty long.
The Korean sermon went 4 hours yesterday. We had so many guests, and the Spirit of God and True Father just wanted to speak.
That seems to happen when Koreans are around.
Yeah, so when Koreans have it, the Spirit of Father just wants to speak. And the Queen was asking, this is just like a Sunday service, but it's so long, and it's like, we talk about all sorts of things, and it seems like, there's not really focus, and you think that's okay, like this. She very kindly, very nicely she asked. And I said, we're not trying to fulfill some religious, style of service. We have to do what brings joy to Father. And Father wants to hear this and that report. If he wants to hear the report on Gideon Kayangshi, even though of course he knows the inner workings, but it's fun to hear it. Then we need to give those reports. Because Father enjoys and loves those. Why? Because Father loves relationships. You understand? God likes relationships. He doesn't want to just go through the motions, okay? Anybody who knows anybody and has a deep relationship with them, you don't want to just go through the motions of with somebody. You want a relationship.